All right, good morning. We are doing our classic coffee and conversation when we're talking about real life situations where husband and wives come together and just talk about issues that concern the family. For you all that don't know us, I am Commodore and this is my wife Tarnisha, and we are blessed
and highly favored.
Right. And we just want to come through and we just want to share a few things with you all. At this time, we are inviting you at our round table, which is rectangular, basically.
Nice to see you too, baby.
Oh, okay. I'm on here. All right. And you see we have double screens, double computers. And what we're talking about is life situations where we face every day. Like...
Our son.
Yeah, our son is waving good morning to us. We're, every day, we have to...
This way?
Nah, it's going to mess up your whole...
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, for instance, we're just going to be transparent with you all. We've been living here at our current residence for nearly 3 years, about 2.5 years. And our lease is up come the end of June. Now, with that being said, what's going on with this global pandemic with the COVID-19, however you want to call it, the coronavirus, some people say Cobra-19, it creates a challenge. I'm not saying it creates not really a challenge, but
it does, because we're supposed to be, we were talking about moving,
right,
purchasing. There's even some things that's changed as far as like guidelines to get approved because of the pandemic. So it does.
Right.
You're having to buy a house differently than you did before because of the pandemic. A lot of it is sight unseen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there are some changes due to the pandemic. So we were already having a hard time deciding what we were going to do. But then this pandemic, I think, added to it,
right,
in our decision making. But in all of that, it's important that we talk about it, and that's what we're doing today. And we're inviting others to be a part of the conversation, I guess, is what we're doing.
Yeah.
But it's important.
This is pre-recorded, so we may post it, we may not post it.
But just know if we do post it.
Yeah, just know if we do post it, you are invited to sit at our round rectangle table.
And here's some real and raw and transparent conversation.
Right. And just like, we get started again, like we were saying, we were, looking at moving. And when we say looking at moving at the end of our lease, and with this pandemic going on and like the current state of especially housing here in this Metro DC area. And, it's not like basically saying where you want to stay, but it's like,
where we are now?
Yeah. No. I mean, like in the region, because, like you can go to some other places where, the price of housing is cheaper, but also you got to worry about if your car's going to be broken in.
Well, and let me just say this too.
Yeah.
Let me just say this. We're in the DC metro area, one of the most expensive places to live. We live in a county that was the second most expensive. I think now we're the third most expensive county in the United States. Right. Let's just put that out there. So it's not cheap. The reason why I say that is it's not cheap to live here. It's the third most expensive county in the United States. Fairfax County is where we live, if somebody wanted to verify that. But yeah, it is the third most. I don't know who's gotten second now. I think Loudoun is still one, which, and let me just put this. The other two counties that are the most expensive in the United States are in this area.
Right. So
we live in a very expensive area, and
it's very transient too.
Very transient. Median income is what, 150?
150, yeah.
So it's a very expensive area, and for us, and the things that we know the Lord has called us to, we want to be good steward over our finances. We have kids that are getting older. We have one that's getting ready to start. He's going into senior year, and then off to college, and just grabbing wisdom for parents that already have kids that's in college, and they're telling us the expenses and the costs that come with that.
Right.
Even if they do get scholarships, there's a cost. So we want to keep all that in mind, because if we buy a $800,000 house, we're now considered what they say house poor,
Right.
and don't have extra money to be able to help our kids in that way. So I'm really just trying to forecast. We can stay in the home that we're in, and it's a blessing that the landlord does want to sell this. He would sell this to us. I think at some point it would bring some profit to us. However, it doesn't suit our family now. Like, we've been in it almost 3 years, and we're busting at the seams in here.
Right.
We have like no closet space. We've had to move the older downstairs to the lower, so the other two can have their own room, because the rooms are real small. So it was just a lot of things that we had to do. So the older one doesn't really have a room. He's just down in the lower level, the lower basement. We've kind of created a room. Tons of steps. This one has bad knees and back. My knees even get irritated, I guess, after a while of going up and down for the last 3 years. And I'm also training because I love to run now too. So my knees get bothered, so there's a lot of things we have to consider. And I know these are like minor things, but they can be big things if you buy a house and now you're stuck in this house for years to come. Knowing these things on the front end. It's not like renting like we are now. When if it's no longer working for us, we can just leave when the lease is up.
Right.
Yeah, that's the beauty of renting. But when you own a home, you really have to think about, if I have to be in this home long term. Because you don't normally just buy a house to sell it a year later. That just isn't a really smart investment.
Right.
So those are just things that we're trying to ponder and churn the wisdom of God as it relates to what we should do.
Right.
And whether we stay or go, God is going to be for us, and he's never going to leave nor forsake us. But there's also wisdom in making a wise decision.
That's
really.
right.
Yeah. So
because you could be making a good decision, but are you making a God decision? And like we say, if you're going to be somewhere and you say God has called you there, then you need to be there with a purpose. It's not just showing up or waking up and existing. You have to be where you are with the purpose.
That's true.
Whether it be, the Lord is using you for ministry at your set place of employment, or He's leading you to. I don't know how else to say it, but
following where the Lord is leading.
Right.
And I think that is hard, especially for us, because so many years you were military.
Right.
We didn't really follow what the Lord was leading, I don't think.
No.
We just followed what the
Follow
military
what the plan of the day
the military leading us.
plan of the day
or
said,
like you said, the plan of the day. And then what happens with us is that we're just told from you what we're all gonna do.
Right.
That's basically
and the plan of the day say, tell you what time you get up, what you dress, what you're gonna be doing this today, and you got the plan of the week and the plan of the month.
And then if we did fight back, because I have tried that, they'll tell him, well, your family was an issue to you.
Right.
So hey, you either get on board or you get left. That's basically how it works.
Right.
So you just learn to submit. But there's been some years that we have been removed from that, but because that has been our foundation, especially for him, for you. That has been,
right after high school.
Right. And even in our marriage, like, that was your life, because that's pretty much how they shaped and formed you.
Right.
It didn't really matter what I said. Even just to be transparent, it didn't. It was what they said.
Right.
And we just had to come along. That's how military family works. That's why being quarantined is it's a big deal, but it's not a big deal to us, because you learn that you have to surrender. You don't really have control over your life. That's just how it is. When you submit and serve your country that way, that's what you give up. And your family also makes that sacrifice.
Right.
You give up your freedom in a lot of ways. So being quarantined and being isolated and giving up your freedom, this is not really throwing us off because we're used to that type of lifestyle because of the military. The military is isolation for some people.
And like I was telling,
I mean, it just is.
Right. I was telling a good friend of ours. I'm gonna see if I can kind of double down on this. Like I was telling a good friend of ours, like, hey, when we go to the store, it's almost like doing an underway replenishment. And for those who've been in the military, know that, like, an underway replenishment is like you're out there in the middle of the fight, but you still get everything you need brought to you. So that's, and
you know how to make some stuff stretch, last, and it's not always fun. It's just not. I'll just be honest. There was a lot of, we were talking about this yesterday, a lot of time in your military career where it just was not fun. It was hard, very, very hard. But that's just, but I was saying that to say that making a decision is tougher for us because we haven't always been told what to do. Even though we've been removed from that because that's been a lot of our foundation, it's hard to now say, oh, well, we're free to now move about the country and go wherever we want to go. Right. No. We don't need anyone telling, we don't need to listen to anyone telling, we listen to the Lord.
Right.
But implementing that, it's easy to say that, but implementing that is something totally, actually being a doer of that is something totally different. Because, and then we use wisdom a lot to say that, but sometimes when we say wisdom, it really could be fear, but we're calling it wisdom.
Right. Because, like past mistakes, and we're to, well, yeah, my phone, it probably ran out of space. But like I said, we just, like past mistakes.
You want to move that up.
Yeah, past mistakes it's caused a lot of insecurities when it comes to like decision making. We would say, okay, yeah, we move by faith and not by sight. And then when you move by like your previous sight, you're like, oh, I saw that coming a mile away, or I can see this coming. And the fear sets in. It's like, okay, well, I'm petrified. I don't want to move. I don't want to go through what I've been through before.
Yeah, when you've made some mistakes. Because we have done that. We did do that. We called it faith, and we moved, and some rubber hit the road real quick.
Right.
And it was a lot of consequences to certain moves, and then you get fearful and don't want to move anymore. And you can also get comfortable.
Right.
You don't want to move anymore.
Yeah.
So there's a comfortability, and there's also fear that you don't want your same past mistakes to revisit you. Those consequences to revisit you. So you stay put. But then also in staying put, there is a level of like itchiness, so to speak. Like you just get real itchy. Like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? You got to do a check-in, and revisit some stuff and say, because like for us, we've been here like this house almost 3 years. We spent about 30 plus. Or was it 30,000?
About 30,000 a year.
That's just in rent. I didn't even count the utilities. Yeah. That's just rent. We don't own this, and so this is okay. But then you think about financial wise, it's like that may not be the best decision because we're wasting a lot of money when we could be owning.
Right.
So that's something you have to look at. And then when you think about owning, you have to think, well, do I want to? Because this home would cost us this townhouse would cost us in this area about $500,000.
About $500,000.
So you got to think, well, do I want to own something for $500,000 for the next 5 or 6 years? But hey, if the Lord has said this is where you're going to be,
then He will provide.
Then He will provide it.
Exactly.
So that's just where I see where I am about
it. And like it's easy to say, okay, hey, why don't you guys just get up and move? Yeah, why don't you guys just get up and move? But on top of that, now you got to think, everything else comes into play. And I once heard it said that, like, the two hardest things in life to deal with is death and moving. And God forbid somebody died doing the move. So
yeah, moving is
it's very stressful because now you got
even a local move.
You got to disconnect everything, reconnect. See if this is local, disconnect, reconnect. Hopefully the kids get to stay in the same school district. If not, then you got to disenroll, re-enroll, find new doctors in that area. It's a lot when it comes to moving. And when you move in, let's say interstate, in and out of state, now you're going to an area where
new territory.
Yeah, new territory, new lands, and now you got to figure out, okay, did I move into a right area? And you're doing countless hours of research, and and you're getting everybody else's opinion that lived there or that moved from there. You'll have people say, oh, stay away from it. Or you have some people say, it's the best thing since sliced bread. So now you're down basically like the valley of decisions. Like, do I stay? Do I go? Do I follow suit of what I want to do? But at the end of the day, you got to hear God.
And now that you're saying all that, I'm sitting here thinking like, man, that's I'm not even thinking about it, because when you move to a new place, you got to establish everything all over again, like new doctors, new hairstylists, new, new schools. You got to learn the area. You got to learn. Now you got to put your GPS. You got to learn the whole area. You got to learn
how to find shortcuts and quick ways and back ways.
And now with this pandemic, it has really exposed a lot of what happens in different states. Because not all the states are ran the same. I think we know that, but now we really know and understand that. So now you got to learn about this state and how they govern, the government of that state and what the laws are and what's allowed, what's not allowed. You got to learn your local area, your schools, how the utilities, could they be different than where you come from? Everything is so different when you move somewhere. You got to set up everything. Even the people, the culture, everything is different. So
learn your neighbors.
It's a lot to overtake. It's a lot, and honestly, thinking about it, it's like, it's a lot to take in. We have done it time and time again. And
being in the military, it's like you go somewhere, and then just about when you're set, it's time to pick up and leave again. And it feels like I don't know if you ever seen the movie. I'm pretty sure we all seen it at one point in time. Mr. Incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, and then when she called him, she was like, Rob, I unpacked our last box. It was like, well, we officially moved in. And then he ended up striking the guy at work. And now they had to they was coming, packing them up. And it's so funny now that I think about it. Like all the moving that we did in the military, we had this one box. Y'all, I kid you not. We had this one box that came everywhere we went. And by the time we get to unpacking a lot of stuff, that box was still packed up. And it just stayed packed up for like 9-10 years.
I think they put on the box, what they read on there, the movers? They wrote something.
They wrote something on
like
there.
Others box or others something. Yeah, miscellaneous something they wrote.
Yeah, and it was crazy because
they're like, oh, this box already packed.
Right, yeah. So it was like, is that a time capsule? If you think about it, it almost seemed like it was a time capsule. You can go back in and open it up. And the funny thing about it is like, okay, you open it up, you haven't seen it in all these years. Now, do you really need it, or you just hoarding and holding on to junk?
Oh, we did that all.
Yeah, we did that a lot
because it was just easier not to even figure it out. But I think since we've been living here and a lot more settled, we've gone through so much stuff and purged a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We've cleaned, got rid of stuff. So now we are ready with a very light move when we do move because we don't have that much stuff we've cleansed out. Stuff. So we're waiting on instruction.
Yeah, we're waiting on instruction.
But we may already have instruction.
Right.
But we're just not listening to? Could that be?
Well, because you can have fear and faith, they can't operate in the same sphere. So, you have the fear of, and this is where we hitting the rubber meets the road right here, y'all. You have the fear of, okay, I don't have a job. I don't have this. I don't have that. And the fear of that, and also, like from my standing, it's okay. I have a family to provide. If it was just myself and my wife, and we'd have hit the road eons ago. But now, when you have children in the mix, that's when everything kind of not say complicated, but it also really puts not strain, but kind of open your eyes to reality. Not only you have to take care of yourself and your spouse, but now you have the children in the mix, and you got to make sure where the next place you move to, that they're in the proper schools, they're in the right schools you want them to be. They're in a neighborhood that's conducive to the environment that they left, because you don't want to pull them from, like the neighborhood where we live in is very diverse. We have different cultures, backgrounds, military, non-military, folks from every ethnic we have like black, white, Hispanic, Arab, just all in that neighborhood, and African, Asian, yeah. So this neighborhood, and then you go somewhere where it's not conducive to what the kids are brought up in. Yeah,
they don't.
Now it's a culture shock.
Our kids go to school with Muslims,
yeah.
and they have the coverings on, and they have Hispanic and Ethiopian and African and Asian,
Yeah.
but this is the Washington D.C. area too, so it is just by nature going to be very diverse,
Right.
culturally. It just is. It's the area. So when you get used to that, it's hard to go somewhere where there are parts of our country that are still very segregated. So it's hard it would be a culture shock for them if we move somewhere where that was not the case. So we always are thinking about what's best for them. But I do realize too, as our kids are getting older, and with this whole pandemic, it has certainly opened our eyes to other options, because there was a point in time we homeschooled.
Right.
We can certainly revisit that for the other two. Our oldest son, he's in a special program, the IB program, but he's also entering his last year of school. Mm-hmm. He's going to be a senior, so he's going to be moving on to bigger and better things that God has for him, by way of college. So we don't have to. When you homeschool, you have so many other options too, because you're not having to worry about schools or what they're going to be exposed to. But this pandemic has again lets you know that it's hard. It's very restrictive in a lot of ways to make decisions. I mean, I guess you should, but you have to be very cautious about just making decisions for purposes of kids' schools. A lot of people do that, and they sacrifice a lot for that. But the Bible also teaches us as believers that obedience is even better than that sacrifice.
Come on.
So hearing from God on what's best for your kids is really going to be the better option, honestly, because you just never know. Look, whoever knew we would be in a pandemic.
Right.
So you just never know. So I don't want to make decisions based on that either. We have. That's why we're where we're at right now.
Right.
Because we wanted the best option for our kids as it relates to schools. So we made sacrifice to put them in these schools. Mm-hmm. We did. So, and we continue to do so. I think for our oldest, it was probably the best because we knew at a young age that he would be an IB.
Right. Yeah. That he needed to be challenged in his education.
Yeah. But the other two,
it's kind of like,
they're. I mean, they have things they want to do, but they don't necessarily have to be in these, these high. What do you call these schools? They're very.
Not high profile.
It's a lot of money that goes into the county.
This county pumps a lot of money back into education.
Exactly. They put a lot of emphasis on education. Yeah. And so as a result, they're really great schools. But is that the best option for kids? Because I've met kids that have been in these schools and then they're just over at a community. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but they could have went anywhere really if they were just going to be at the community college. That's how I see it. But you got to know too what's best, and we'll have to do another video on parenting, but you have to know what's best for your child. Like you got to know what's going to be the best route for them. Mm-hmm. And you start to see that in young age, what they're, what track they're going to go. You'll start seeing that.
You'll see one that, has the backing in the arts and entertainment. You'll see one who has like governments, where we see your kids, you want to bring that forth in them. You want to give them it seems like now we're moving on to parenting. But, what we was talking about moving, so let's just kind of keep.
That's what I said, we're doing another video. We are going to do a live anyway, I think tomorrow on parenting. We talked about that, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to do one on parenting. So we'll have to, that's a big one for us.
Yeah. Well, this is just a practice run.
But we're talking about moving.
Yeah, so we're talking about moving.
We still don't know where we
again.
Do we stay or do we go, Lord?
And for me, I'm like throwing in like every direction. Mm-hmm. I'm throwing in every direction. You come sit down if you want to listen, Joe. Yeah.
We're throwing in every which. Well, we should, and that's the thing. We know that God's not in that if you're throwing every which way, because that's confusion.
Right.
And God said He's not the author of confusion. He's not in confusion. Mm-hmm. If you operate in confusion, trust me, He's not God. So that we can settle. But I think we wrestle because we're trying to figure out what's going to be better. But honestly, what is that thing that they say? What is that? I'm gonna butcher it. Paralysis. Analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis, right? Yeah.
Analysis paralysis.
Analysis.
Paralysis.
Paralysis.
Yeah, so you're being scared, just analyze, not even making the move.
You ain't going nowhere because you're still
know.
trying to figure out what you're going to do. That actually is a hinder, and that's what my point of bringing that up. When you act in that way, you are hindering yourself from moving forward. Because honestly, staying here or moving, there will be risk.
Right.
There will be consequences. There will be, just shift, all that kind of stuff that happens. But if you just stay stagnant, see what happens is a confused mind, that I do know, does nothing.
That's right.
Confused mind does nothing. So you just stay stuck.
Right.
And you just keep going on this Ferris wheel for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years until we actually make a decision and stick to it.
Right.
That's why I don't ever want to make a decision emotionally. Because I know, like you were saying earlier, I'm sorry, when you said that, like, if it was just you and I, then we would be, because if it was just me by myself, child, I wouldn't even have a home. I probably wouldn't. I'd be traveling all over.
If it was just me by myself, y'all probably see me pulling up in an old van.
Well, see, we on the same thing. Yeah. We even said when the kids leave, we were going to get this van and like tear the inside of it out, one of those big Mercedes type vans, and make it put a bed, a kitchen, and just travel. Because we both like to travel and see and do stuff.
Right.
But that's not a good foundation for kids because you can't really have them, I don't know, just living, on the road, every single day, all their lives. So you've got to put some sort of foundation to it. But.
Right, yeah. And I love what Dr. Miles Monroe said. We were talking about the decision. Like, even if you don't make a decision, you already made a decision. That was wow.
So you're making a decision not to make a decision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You already made a decision.
That's good.
Yeah. And it all comes down to just not saying stepping out in faith, because we're supposed to already be in faith. It's just moving in faith. And when you move in faith, doors are going to be open for you that no man can close. There's favor. When you step out in faith, favor is going to go before you. And then when you look back, you're going to see goodness and mercy following you. And you're like, wow, we got through this. Nobody had to be nobody.
But we know that.
Yeah, we've seen it
this
time
the same
and time.
God. He's done it over and over again. Like, literally, when you talk about making no way, no way.
Oh, thank you, Holy Spirit.
Making a way out of nowhere.
Right. You know what it is? Holy Spirit just punched me in the gut about it.
Ooh.
It's the process. People do not want to go through the process for the promise.
Break that down for us, Pastor.
When we know God's promises is yes and amen, and that His goodness and mercy, that it endures forever. But then if you know that if you wanted to get this, let's say, let's be hypothetical. God has a house prepped for you, a house on the hill with 3-car garage, swimming pool, his and her swimming pools. Listen, you can imagine. But then if He showed you the process that you had to go through, you'd be like, nah, God, that's okay. That's okay. You can keep it right there. And I see how like some pastors and some leaders, if they knew what they had to go through to become what God has called them to be, they'd have been like, hey, you know what, God, I don't think this might be for me. Yeah, so it's
gotta trust that process, actually. Yeah.
You got to trust the process for the promise.
On the way to the promise.
Because, this life is not going to be easy for us, especially as believers. The word said we don't fight against flesh and blood, but we fight against, demonic spirits, principalities in high places. So we know that the forces are already against us. But on that same note, if God is for us,
come on,
who can be against us? And then when you ask that question, who can be against you? Everything that's not concerning the word of God, everything that wants to throw you off from what God has promised you, everything that try to be a stumbling block in your way, every demonic force is going to be against you. And then, the word said that God has given us the power to trample over these things. Yeah, it said we will crush the heads of the serpents, and who was that to say that? If you want to give the enemy a message, just write it on the bottom of your feet, because that's where he's at.
Yep. And I think the enemy operates where we are right now too, because like the Bible talks about being tossed to and fro.
Right.
So we can't make a solid decision because we are being tossed to and fro.
Right, and it said you expect to receive nothing.
Right. The Bible said don't expect to receive. And I think the enemy can operate in your undecisiveness.
Mm-hmm.
He can play right into that all day, every day.
Right.
Because he knows that you're not going to make a decision, a solid decision.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes he throws you things to kind of, because the enemy learns you. He studies you. He knows the next move you may or may not make. He's kind of filling you out. So when we're not able to make a solid decision like this, he's going to throw everything our way. They say, hey, but what about this?
Mm-hmm.
But what about that? Well, what about this? What you going to do about that?
Yeah.
What you say, God going to provide, but what about this? He's bringing all the what ifs. And then you're meditating on that and weighing that, and you just don't make a decision because you are concerned about, what about?
What if?
But if God said it, if God has given the vision, there's going to be provision. And that's where God's looking for us to say, well, regardless of all the what ifs, we are going to run your will, your plan for our lives. That's the next move we're going to make. So that really has to be it. And only way we know that is really just sitting in God's presence and hearing what he's telling us to do, regardless of all the what ifs. Because the what ifs are going to be there. They just are.
Exactly.
But we have to learn to just move beyond all of the what ifs, to actually just almost put them all to the side when you know what God has already told you to do. You'll weigh them, but it cannot make a difference in your decision.
Right. Because
what God said is what he said.
Exactly. And
what his plan is his plan. And we learned that even when we went to Palm Beach.
Yeah.
We didn't weigh it. We had tons of what ifs.
Yeah.
We had tons of what ifs.
In hindsight, looking back at it, it's crazy. Go ahead, you can finish.
Oh, no, I was just saying, we didn't weigh the what. Obviously, we didn't weigh the what ifs.
We just went off of our own understanding. And, I want to touch on that because I remember us leaving. It was June 2nd. June 2nd, leaving Palm Beach.
Oh, leaving. Okay.
Yeah, leaving Palm Beach.
Actually, I wrote about that, but yeah.
When we got to Palm Beach, I'm telling y'all, it's like, if you talking about you want to see God hand move, I tell you, I see what Elijah felt like in the cave when he said that, the wind blew, the fire came, but the still calm voice was the Lord. And, that's how it was for us. It's like, okay, we had the fire, the wind, everything that came upon us. But then the peace of God was on it. And we met so many good people. We got connected to an awesome ministry. Doors were open. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you, man. God has used people. God has used people on our behalf. And then, leaning to our own understanding, it's like, well, maybe we should go back. I want to go back. We want to go back. And, that Egypt mindset, I'm going to tell y'all, that Egypt mindset is real.
Go back to Palm Beach?
No, we want to come back up here. Remember, we was,
yeah.
Yeah, and hindsight 2020, when we were looking at it, it was like, we had everything going for us. Why did we leave? We had this moving. We didn't have to leave. This was going for us. We had this. Everything was lined up for us. And then I remember we getting on the road, just
everything was against.
Everything fell. When I mean, y'all, everything fell apart.
Screaming,
even haven't left us. We got on the highway, not even 10 minutes. The tire blew out. And we were like, get behind me, Satan. Don't push. That could have been God yo, stay. The promise is coming. It's coming, buddy. And then driving all night. Not only we lost the tire, we got the tire replacement, but the car. Yo, my car. I had a 96 Honda Accord. Had that car for 15 years.
What a way to do it.
Wow. Right, and the car, the tire came off. We came into Georgia and the tire the car broke.
There was no more.
So we suffered a loss running from the protection of God.
And let's not even talk about, come back. We so much hurdles.
Yeah.
Because when we got up here, the plane we had just completely you talking about, unraveling.
It felt like you had a cracker in your hand,
And it just
like just disintegrated. It's like you
felt about just
oh my God!
I mean, you talking about the floor being ripped up underneath your feet, like Jesus. You just like fell, like boom. Like, it was just like that. It was crazy. But on the reverse side of that, when we think about what we did to move there to Palm Beach,
right,
and the
that
grace
was the act
and the peace
of
that was on us, it was almost kind of scary in a sense, but it was like the grace and peace that was on us when we moved.
Right.
We decided to relocate our family. So much so, when you want to talk about some grace and peace, this one wasn't even here.
I was like 3,000 miles away.
He was deployed somewhere with the military in school, and I'm by myself.
With a broke foot.
With a broke foot. Not my foot wasn't broke, it was
well, you had a bone. Some
tendons were torn in there. I thought I sprained it. But come to find out, it was the tendon, like to the point they was gonna want to do surgery on it, and I sprained it because we were moving, and I was like, oh my God! And it's the foot that you drive with too, my right foot. It was crazy. 3 kids, 3 little small, just cute little boys that were looking to mommy for everything, and this one is away, and we're moving to Palm Beach. Like, who in the world? Like, I'm driving by myself with 3 kids. Like, it was crazy. What? And like, got the movers and set up, put the house together. Everything was set up. And I don't even know how I did it. Like, there was some supernatural. I'm telling you, there was nothing but the Lord. Because if you asked me to do that now, I would look at you like you're crazy.
Exactly.
No way. I would even think of doing that. And my kids are older and can help move some stuff. At that time, they were still little and couldn't really help. So it was just, I don't know, but it was like the supernatural strength that literally came over me, even with a foot that had tendons that were, I don't know if the tendons were
they were torn.
I got an MRI, and they're like, if this doesn't heal within the next few weeks, I'm have to do a surgery on you. I'm like, what? I went to the doctor, and I had already did a move and everything, and by myself. And thank God I didn't have to. I had to put my foot in a boot and just stay off of it. But yeah, it was crazy. It was really, really, really crazy. But it was a supernatural strength. Like, even to the point where we found our church home. Everything was ordained by God. Right. One step after another step. And all it took was faith.
Faith and obedience.
Yeah. Faith and obedience. Just say, believe God and do. Being a hearer, we heard him say it, and then we did it. We implemented. That was it. And he actually did everything else. But the supernatural strength on me, we had money that was coming in from left, right, and center to help us get moved, move our other car down, set us up. Like, the house we got there was just given to us. Right. It literally was like handed to us. I've never had a house like just here you go. Like, you get a house, you get a house. You get a house. It was just like, it was crazy favor. Neighbors were,
oh man, you're talking about the best neighbors, and like,
I don't even know who these people were. They're like angels. Like, they came. I moved in one day. The next day they were at my house. They're like, hey, do you need help? And I guess they were trying to fish to find out, okay, this woman with 3 kids is by herself. Where's the male? They're not seeing a male. And just when they heard, like, oh my God, her husband's military, he's away, and she's by herself, and they hovered over me and gave me stuff while we were waiting for our goods to get to the place. Like, here's an air mattress. I have extra air mattress for the boys to sleep on. Like, they were just really kind people. And it was just God. But because, like you said, that Egypt mindset, and because we were not living the lifestyle we were used to living under a military covering, we panicked. We operated in fear. We wanted stability. We wanted the same pay and benefits. And we moved back. We moved away from where God was leading and guiding us. We moved away. We panicked. We moved back. And when we thought we had a plan, that plan quickly, and when I say quickly, hallelujah, it quickly unraveled itself. Quickly.
So now this is where it brings us today. Our time is winding down here.
We say all that
on
to
the
say.
list. Right, yeah.
Do we go back to Palm Beach?
It's like,
probably that's the question.
Yeah, it's like, do we go to Palm Beach?
You go back to where
we said, okay, we wanted to move back to Florida. Would it be Central Florida?
We did say move to Florida, yeah. Florida's our home. It's our heartbeat. It has our heart. Always has, I think.
Yeah.
Well, for you, yeah, especially because you're from there, but I mean, from me too.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm sure that would be a question. Do you go back to Palm Beach?
Right. It's like, do you go back to Palm Beach or do you?
We over the years, we've gone back and forth about that.
Yeah, I contemplate going back to Palm Beach.
Yeah, we have. But one thing we said, well, will it be the same?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Once you have moved out of the will of God, it's not always that easy to move back. And then you don't know how long that will of God was. Because was that just going to be for a season? Was that going to run its course? Mm-hmm. And then God will move us on to the next thing. We don't know. Right. So you can't just go back, like, ooh, and everything fits back in. Because that timing and that season could have by now expired. Right. What if we stayed there? We don't know if God would have had us there because we've been removed from there for 5 years. We don't know if God would have still stayed.
Yeah, right. So hey, go to Greenville and help out the ministry.
Right.
And then we'll still be sitting there looking like this today, like, well, the church is closed. Well, we got a circle group running.
Well, and now, right. All churches are closed. Yeah. And church, as we know it, will not be the same when it does reopen. So, you can't really focus and you just got to be in the will of God. Right. That's just it. Yeah.
Let's take time out and thank our sponsors today. Our sponsor today is Panera Bread. Unlimited coffee subscription starting at $8.99 a month. Please visit your local. I love Panera Coffee. That and Wawa. Wawa's actually my favorite. I love Wawa coffee. But yeah, back to our decision to move. Yeah. That's all part in that too. Yeah. So, and when you move away from God, that's why it's hard for us to make. It's good to give some history and some content around it because it is hard to make a decision. It's tough. Especially, you don't have the military telling you, okay, well, this is your next assignment to go to.
Maybe we should act like we do.
Right. And,
since we have...
it's the funny part about it. Not funny, but like when you talk to other military people, they all have that itch.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the 4-year itch. It's like, okay, I'm supposed to be going somewhere else by now. And I can contest to that because at my job, I'm like, okay, where's my orders? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like my orders are. Well, I haven't received my orders to leave yet.
Mm-hmm. Right, and you're not going to receive them.
Right, yeah.
But he also has this too because you not only. Now that we're done with the military life, we've retired from that. You still work in you work for the Department of Navy, right? So you're still around military people. I think that makes it even more like, because you haven't removed yourself completely from it. Yeah. So you're still surrounded in that type of culture, even though you're not actually in it. Yeah. In it, you're surrounded by it. So I think that also makes it a little bit difficult. You even have a boss who is militant. I mean, he's not even in the military anymore. He's retired, but he's so
militant.
It's almost like having you got a military.
Like a real sergeant,
yeah. So you're you're really in the throes of it, although you are removed from it in a sense because you're surrounded by it. Right. So I think that also plays into your mindset. Because you haven't completely removed yourself from it. Right. I mean, when you go to work, you're still showing your ID to get on a base. You still work on a military base.
Installation, yeah.
So, what is it? I'm saying a base. That's a Navy term. But what is that?
We call it military installation, a joint base.
It's still in the military. You got to show your ID to get on.
And my boss is a colonel in the Air Force. So.
He's active.
Yeah.
So you're still
technically
very much surrounded in it. So that does make, I think, your life a little harder where somebody who's retired or removed from it and they're not working in that military sector anymore. Right. Yeah. So it's very hard for you to remove yourself from the way they think. The military trains your mind.
Oh, yeah.
The way they think, you think everything. And when you're still surrounded by it, you still think that way. Right. You just do. So that's your surrounding. That's your culture. But then you know that you're really not in it, but you're still in it. It's like, and this one still has a lot of his mindset. It's hard for him to remove himself from thinking secular in a way, I guess. Not secular, but thinking Civilian. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. Thinking the civilian. Yeah.
It's funny because some civilians, like when I worked at DynCorp, like, come on, no, man, get your civilian on. You ain't gotta do all that. You ain't gotta, because I remember,
yeah, but you were still on a base.
Right, yeah, and I got out. Remember, I got out and worked with DynCorp.
Yeah, but DynCorp was on the base.
Yeah, it was on the base, so
you still,
I still had the go. You know, in the military, they teach you from when you come to work till you get off, it's go. Mm-hmm. You at 100, you going at 115%. That when you get off, all you want to do is go home, kiss your wife, get some food, and go to sleep. And you repeat the process 5 days a week, unless you got duty section weekend. And then when you get out of the military, your whole mindset is go. And when I mean go, I showed up to work, go. And I thought that was a culture there. And it was like, hey, slow down, get your civilian on. You know, don't rush through things. There's a process how we do things. And you got to unlearn all those years of go to slow. And you got to work it up to slow. And then when you look at coming out of the military and you're looking at the civilian people, you're like, man, these people are lazy. But then it's the culture, you know. They're telling you you gotta do it slow. You gotta take your time with it. There's no rush. There's
which honestly though, that can work against you.
Yeah,
it can. I mean, I'm not saying. I think there's a balance in it.
Yeah, you got to.
You don't want to be super lazy because a lot of people that's in the government get really, get content, and they get comfortable. That comfortability. You know, and they do their 8 and go, and they barely want. And when they're doing their 8, some of them are not focused on doing their 8. So that could be a bad thing. It honestly could, because you get stagnant. Right. So I think there's a way to be in between. But the military can be an overkill, right? Sometimes, because and they have to be, because they are protecting our. It's a different world, you know. They're protecting our freedom, really. They're so you can't be stagnant in protecting people's freedom. There is a sense of urgency that must be in place. Mm-hmm. But I think when you come out of it, you have to kind of live somewhere in between, right? Because it's probably not a good idea just to go all the way, right? Like come to a complete stop, and then it's like, because then now you're not getting anything done, right? And you're becoming very stagnant. That's not how you want to be either. Mm-hmm. But I think in between, because it's not always good to be on go all the time either. That's not, it's not good. But that's what it has to be when you're in the military, right? That's just the lifestyle. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The military. Boy, I tell you, there's a lot of pros to being, I'm sure you can list 100 different things that you have developed as military being your background. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of pros with it. Yeah, there's a lot of pros. And, and there's cons that come with all pros. Whether it's on the good side or the upside or downside. There's a lot of, wherever you have pros, there's always going to be cons. Mm-hmm. Because even being a military spouse, I probably could do a freaking live on that alone. Being a military spouse has stretched me in ways that, man, and I didn't like that stretching. Ooh, I didn't like that stretching. Yeah. But it was necessary, so it is what it is. Yeah. Well, we want to thank you all for joining us this time. We took a little bit too much of your time, so we're getting ready to wrap this up. More than likely, we're not going to share this, so just kind of a... We're not? No, because we're going to go back. We're going to go live and talk about it. Are we moving? Are we staying or going? Right. Tune in next time to our final city. I feel like we on them shows where they show like the 3 houses, and we're gonna go with house number. Tune in. They break. HGTV, then they break. We're gonna choose. Come to Panera Bread and enjoy your coffee. Throw a commercial in there. Tanisha and I, we love you all. Yes, we do. Yeah. And you can cut it off. Yeah.